Welcome to Meet the Candidates 2024, a voter education program brought to you by the Shakopee Chamber of Commerce. My name is Tim Zunker, and I'm the president with the Shakopee Chamber and Visitors Bureau. Our hope is that these candidate interviews and profiles will help you, the voter, understand your choices when it comes to the 2024 election. We ask voters to arm themselves with information necessary to make educated choices, to make casting your vote a priority. Please visit the Shakopee Chamber website at shakopee.org to find out more information about the upcoming election. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Commissioner Jody, Scott County Commissioner Jody Brennan. Jody, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. I am Jody Brennan, Scott County Commissioner for District 3. District 3 is the majority of Shakopee, with some exceptions that other commissioners are doing. I am also a member of the Dakota Scott Workforce Board. The Dakota Scott Workforce Board works with Dakota County employers and the Scott County Midwaukee and Sioux community chambers and the school districts to develop programs for employees. And I'm also a liaison to the Community Development Authority, which is the arm of the Scott County that provides housing and economic development services. They're celebrating their 50th year, and they are continuing to grow in the Shakopee community by developing the Legacy Central senior housing. I am also on the Association of Minnesota Counties Board, and the committee I serve on is General Governance, and that encompasses elections, taxation, and employees. It also covers housing and economic development. Prior to being on the Scott County Commissioner, I was on the Shakopee City Council, and the Shakopee Public Utilities Commission, and I was president of the Economic Development Authority for Shakopee.
Great. Thank you, Jody. We'll get into our questions, and our first question is, what are your top 3 priorities for Scott County, and how do you plan to achieve them?
Well, there's a lot of priorities in Scott County. We're a big and broad arm of government, but I think for this year coming up, or the next couple of years, it's creating a solid waste plan, which will be regional, and working with our different businesses to create a solid waste plan that's not burdensome, but that's something that's being put on us by the state. I think we're also going to be working on a 911 program for Scott County in partnership with Hennepin County. So we're having a partnership that will cross the borders and also save on employee costs and being able to reach out better across the lines. Functionality, we're going to be looking at the functionality of the juvenile alternative facility in Jordan. We're hoping to make it into a regional area and provide services to children who are experiencing mental health issues and providing better services to those children so they have better lives in the future.
Great. Thank you.
Yep.
The certified county levy for property taxes in Scott County increased by 4% as of February 2024, according to the Minnesota Department of Revenue. While this is lower than the state average of 5.5%, what strategies do you have in place to manage property taxes in light of rising costs for county services?
County services that we really have to pay for is based on human services and employee costs. Human services is like a core function of Scott County. We take care of children, we take care of adults, we take care of people who are coming out of corrections. And we have this core service, but the amount of policies, mandates, dysfunctional software is added on by the state, and we still try to serve people with this core committee of Department of Scott County. So what I work for and other commissioners work to do is reduce the amount of mandates, modernize systems, and make sure that the mandates that are put in place by the state are reduced. So one of the things that I did last year was testify twice on health and human services policies. One was for making sure that children had beds that they can sleep in, and making sure that they have a better place for the juvenile alternative facility. And another one was making sure that systems were modernized. We have a really antiquated system for health and human services. The software shuts down in the middle of adding information in. They're adding information in that has nowhere to go, so it's like a redundant type of questions that they're asking that has no purpose. So last year the House of Representatives decided to put $10 million into it, but that $10 million is going into the research and new programs. So, what are they going to do with it? It actually has to come down to the county and fix the problem. Because right now, the only thing that we have available to us is adding more staff to cover those redundancies and making sure that people in the community are actually reached and worked with.
Great, thank you. What measures would you take to ensure fiscal responsibility and transparency in the county's budget?
Well, I think the best thing I can think of is making sure that we're telling the story of Scott County and what we're doing. I try my best to get out in the community and talk to people and find out what they're doing. Talking about issues like health and human services and the problems that we have, and I do what I can, and I also make sure that our staff is doing what they can.
Great, thank you. And if elected, how will you support economic development and job creation for Scott County?
Well, as a member of the Dakota Scott Workforce Board, we work to bring the Drive for 5 grants into our community. Those are training for people to do jobs like boiler technician, pharmacy technician, and medical assistance and cybersecurity. And those are classes that are currently available, and people can sign up for if they need it. They can. Those classes are being sponsored by the Inver Grove Community College. They come to Scott County, and they work out of those classes are being made available out at the Southwest Metro School District. So that's one of the things that we're doing. I took a tour of Scott County with the Community Development Authority, and we looked at all the cities and townships to see what their issues are in economic development. What happens here in Shakopee is different from what happens down in Belle Plaine, and how do we bring in transportation, transit, roads, infrastructure to support those cities and make sure that they're available or able to do those business growth. We also are going to be talking about the comprehensive plan in the next few years and how does that affect our townships and our rural areas.
Great, thank you. And according to the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development, Scott County was the second fastest growing county in the state of Minnesota from 2010 to 2022, and it is projected to show continued population growth through 2035. With the current and projected population growth, how would you address associated infrastructure demands, including housing, for Scott County?
Well, we're receiving a 25% sales tax from the state of Minnesota for housing. We're working with the Community Development Authority to develop housing. We're using that sales tax right now to develop a facility called Solo. It's for homeless women and children in the Prior Lake area. And we want them to get on their feet and establish in the community and find jobs. So we're working with the Shepherd of the Lake Church so that they can provide the social end of it and support to those people. And then the Scott County will be providing the building. So I think that's a really great thing for us to do is get those, get people to work and get them established and have a solid foot on the ground.
Great. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And what are your plans to improve public safety and community services in Scott County? And you kind of touched on that earlier.
Yeah, I did. 911 is the system that we currently have for software it goes down and isn't serving our communities well enough. I think a partnership with Hennepin County and our cities on that is really going to be beneficial to have it more secure, have more staff that's in place to take those calls, and then availability so that people know so police officers know what's going on across the city lines or across the county lines, so that they know what to expect when people move from committing a crime in one area into over the boundaries into our area, and who those people are. I think that one of the things that I advocated for last time I ran was the community response officer that was put into place in Shakopee. It's been really successful with Savage, Shakopee, and Scott County. Is to have a mental health responder that's on staff that can take those calls and be with those individuals so that they're not put in jail and languishing in there.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And now I give you an opportunity to give a closing statement and message to the voters.
Thank you. I'll keep it really short. I am Jody Brennan again. I have a Facebook page where you can find out more information and the things that I support. It's a busy place in Scott County. I support my community and I do my best to work for you. I am running unopposed. And it's a great opportunity here today to talk about things that are important to me and things that are important to Scott County. So thank you very much to the Chamber for inviting me here today.
Yes, thank you, Jody. The views expressed in these interviews are those of the candidates, not those of the Chamber and Visitors Bureau. The Chamber is sponsoring these interviews as a service to the community and has gone to great lengths to ensure the objectivity. The Chamber does not endorse any candidate, but seeks to provide you, the citizens and voters of Shakopee, with the information you need to make an informed choice. The Shakopee Chamber and Visitors Bureau extends a sincere thank you to the candidates. Thanks again, Jody, for joining us today.
Thank you.
We appreciate your time and your service to our community by running for office. You're performing an important service to us all. Again, thank you for joining us for Meet the Candidates 2024. Thank you, Jody.
Thank you.